Hey everyone, and welcome back to the NintendoFuse Podcast. This is episode 294, recorded on June 13th for June 18th, 2024. And on this episode, we're going to be talking all about the OTK Games Expo, the Guerrilla Collective Expo, the Summer Game Fest, Day of the Devs, and so much more. My name is Steve, and here to talk about this is Barry and Greg. Barry, how you doing?
Good. Overwhelmed, but good.
Yeah. Greg, are you keeping your head above water?
Yep, pretty much trying to. I mean, I guess Christmas in June is back again, so.
Yes. Yeah, and this kind of a pseudo E3 season. We normally have a bunch of events that we usually get together and talk about. We have some predictions, and we talk about all the events that happened and reminisce about the good times about E3, and sometimes Greg and I were there and the good times. But this year, everybody decided to have their showcase all within about a week, and they didn't really, some of them coordinated together and some of them didn't, and there's so many studios nowadays, and so we were overwhelmed by all the different showcases and directs and everything else that were shown off over the last couple of weeks. So here we are in a pre-recorded episode. So normally we go live every other Tuesday at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time and 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific time, get my time zones correctly. But on this one, we're pre-recording it. And so we are going to be ahead of at least one of the events, actually two of the events. So potentially we're releasing this and the Nintendo Direct has already happened and the Yacht Club Games one has definitely happened. But yeah, it's pre-recorded this time. Sorry about that. Our next episode, we will talk all about the Nintendo Direct and probably Yacht Club Games as well. But if you've never joined us live, we just encourage you to join us. And we usually stream on Twitch and YouTube, and the video version is available on YouTube after the fact as well. So since we don't have a live chat this time, be sure to let us know all your thoughts in the comments down below on the video version on YouTube, and subscribe and share this with others as well. But before we get into all those different showcases and all the headlines that we're going to be talking about on this episode, let's kick it off with what we have been playing and go over to Greg first.
So this time around, I've been pretty focused on just a handful of games here. So I've just been trying to get ready for to start playing 1,000-Year-Old Door. So with that said, I've been going through Paper Mario 64 through the NSO app, and I've actually really much so far enjoyed everything that I've been playing so far. I've already rescued the first two of the Star Sprites and just hoping to continue playing through that some more. I had played it briefly on the Wii U Virtual Console, and I don't think I had even made it this far through it. It just was an issue where on my previous console where my save file was my console was stolen, and then so I lost my save file, so then wasn't really able to pick up from there. So with the release of the latest one just a few weeks back, I wanted to go through and replay through the 64 version of the game and at least beat it. Probably not like 100% or anything, but so I'm just working my way through that, and it's been really enjoyable so far, seeing how Paper Mario used to play and what a better game it used to be before it decided to go onto the 3DS. So there's that there, and then I've also been playing a game called Wildlands that we'll be talking about in the near future in a future game chat. And then pretty much other than that, just my staples on mobile. Like The Simpsons Tapped Out had like a donut promo event going on for their donut day that they do, and then also some other events going on there that I've just kind of enjoyed, just kind of easily just slow play, just tapping and clearing and collecting cash and building meaningless pixels and on a digital game there. So yeah, that's basically been my playthrough games, pretty focused this time around.
Nice. Greg, you're reminding me of Donut Day. I totally forgot about Donut Day this year. Not necessarily because of Simpsons, but just because I wanted to go get a free donut that I forgot about.
Yeah, I forgot about it too, but then I saw the promo and I still didn't think to look it up to see if I should go to Dunkin' to go grab it. But I was like, ooh, donuts in the game. I'll just spend some of these digital donuts. buy some
Nice.
limited edition characters. So
It's great. Barry, what have you been playing over the last couple weeks?
Yeah, so I'm still doing Pokemon Unite on the Switch. Star Wars Hunters, which I started the day we recorded last time. I've been playing that every day. In fact, I wound up purchasing the pass because I've been playing it every day and I'm having a lot of fun with it. And I'm unlocking characters. I've only got like 4 characters left to unlock, and they're doing like different quests every multiple times a week. And the matches are really quick and they're fun, and I'm enjoying it way more than I thought I would. So mad props to it. Just a great time. Really, honestly. I said I was done with Paper Mario Thousand Year Door last time. Kind of lied because I decided to go back through and do Pit of 100 Trials, which I didn't do, and that's because I decided to do a Danger Mario build, and I'm like, that just looks like too much fun. So I did Danger Mario build, and my God, that is the way to cheese that game. Holy crap! I'm glad I beat it the legit way, but I've beat every boss going down in one turn. Like literally, it's just insane what you can do with Danger Mario. I'm not going to spoil the strat. Play it normally, but if you do want to cheese the game, you can use Danger Mario build, and wow, it makes the game easy. So I did that, and I was happy to accomplish that. Like Greg mentioned, Wildlands, I played to do some of that, which we will talk more about in a future game chat. And something we'll talk about a little bit later as well. On the NSO, I went through and played through all 5 Game Boy Mega Man games again. I haven't played them in
You say
years, and
played through like you beat them all?
I beat them all. Yeah, I beat
Oh
them all.
wow. Okay.
wow.
In fact, I beat 1, 2, and 3 like in one sitting, and it probably took me like an hour and 20 minutes, maybe tops, to beat all 3. I did abuse the rewind feature because some of those games are cheap. Drop down a pit and you land in a spike because you just didn't know it was there because of the Game Boy scroll screen. So it's like, oh crap, let me rewind and redo that. I was just playing for fun to relive, and I did it the worst way possible, which is to start with 5 because 5 is my favorite, and I love 5 on the Game Boy, and I 100%ed it back in originally, and I haven't played it since, and that was probably 1997, 8, 9 maybe. So I wanted to go back and do that one first, and I love Mega Man 5. But then I decided to do 4, 3, 2, 1. So I did them backwards. And the problem with doing them backwards is they regress and they get worse, and you lose abilities that you got accustomed to. So if you're going to play them one up. And obviously, like 1 and 2 are the worst ones by far, and then 3 gets a little better, and 4 and 5 are the best. But it was great just going back through and exploring and having fun with those games again, and save states and rewind to make them infinitely easier. My God. But I had fun with that. On the PS5, I went to Astro's Playroom, the launch game that was bundled in because they announced a new Astrobot, and they actually added new content to the game. They added a new special bot you can find, and they added more to the Labo, which is their museum. Like the PSVR 2 was added, the PS5 Slim, stuff like that. So I had enough coins, I just bought all that. And they put out the Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak demo, which is the next Legend of Heroes game that I'm so looking forward to. That comes out in July. And it's demos on Switch and PlayStation, but for whatever reason, the Switch demo is the prologue, and the PlayStation demo is the prologue and the first chapter. So for whatever reason, you get more content out of the PlayStation demo. So I went through that and I beat the first chapter. Very much enjoying the new characters and the new setting. It's great to see Calvard. I was unsure about the battle system at first because it's turn-based, and instead of just hitting attack and your character moving, now you can. It's almost like a strategy role-playing game where you can actually move around yourself, pick where you want to attack, line up. If you have an area of attack move, you can line it up to hit whatever enemies you want. And I was like, well, that kind of eliminates sometimes just spamming X on weaker enemies. But to accommodate that, it's also an action RPG. So you can actually just attack the enemies instead of actually going to turn-based. You can choose when to go turn-based, and you can attack and stun them and then go turn-based and do an extra special attack. But if the enemies actually knock you down in the action, then it goes to turn-based with them having an advantage. And I was like, I like this. I can run around the field and I'm rolling and dodging like Bayonetta game, and I'm doing action combat in 3D. I'm like, I didn't know I needed this in the Trails of games, but wow. And I think they're doing that because this is a starting off point. It's a new chapter. It's a new set of games. It does take place, obviously, in the same universe. It references but it's a new cast of characters. It absolutely is like, you can start here, and that's what they're doing with it. And I like it. I didn't think I was going to like the combat, but I really like that action combat and being able to swap. So if you like action, you like turn-based, it's the best of both worlds. So give it a try. It's a free demo, so you can still play it. On PC, I'm still doing Final Fantasy 14, and mobile, still doing Mario Kart Tour and Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel, The Northern War. I'm still messing around with that, although it's starting to grate on me, and it just becoming busy work. And I watch the anime, so I don't know. I don't know how long I'll keep with it, but I'm still going.
Nice. So I have not been playing a whole lot of games the last couple of weeks. I'm anticipating playing a little bit more moving forward. As I said on previous episodes, I'm going to be traveling a lot over the next several weeks. But yeah, it's just been Rocket League, Pokemon Go, Clash Royale. It's pretty much all been either Xbox when I'm home, and then mobile game here and there. So Pokemon Go and Clash Royale. And then I dabbled around with the YouTube playables. So they've actually have some playable games in the YouTube app now. And so I played Bubble Pop Star and Cut the Rope. And they actually run really good. So I don't know if I'm guessing they're just in the cloud. I haven't looked into like how they are playable, or if they're just somehow embedded at a really, really small game size, like storage size within the app. I'm not exactly sure. I'm guessing it's somehow cloud related, but both of them played really well. It was like the game was actually on my phone. So yeah, had some fun.
I remember playing Cut the Rope on just my standard iPhone. It's been a lot of fun. Like, I do remember the name of that, and that was kind of an interesting concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they actually released the physical on 3DS.
Oh, that's true. They did. Yeah, I played it on 3DS and my phone before. And yeah, it's definitely one of those addicting puzzle games for sure. Kind of like physics based and everything. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've been doing lately. Not a lot of gaming. Trying to watch all these different showcases and stuff like that have been going on in between, which has left me very, very little time to game. Yeah, didn't even accomplish all of that, but we'll get into that in just a minute. Before we do that, we do want to remind you, if you've not let us know what you've been playing lately, we'd love to hear from you as well. You can let us know over on our social media. You can let us know in a comment on the video version here on YouTube, and you can also let us know on our Discord. We have a great community of Discord over there on Discord, and so the link is on the screen in the video version, but it's also going to be available on our show notes in the podcast version of this on your favorite podcast app. So be sure to click that link and head over into our Discord. Let us know what you've been playing, and we love interacting with you guys in between episodes. We also got some recent game chats, our discussion-based reviews that we do over on YouTube as well. We've talked about Builder Simulator, Tadpole Treble Encore, and Construction Simulator 4. So don't get those confused. Builder Simulator and Construction Simulator are two different games. Spoiler alert, we didn't like either of them, but they are two completely different games. And then also Tadpole Treble Encore is a completely different game in a completely different direction altogether. So be sure to check out all three of those on our YouTube as well. Let's head into some headlines. We got three quick headlines we're going to talk about on this episode, and Greg's going to kick us off with the first one.
So, Nintendo is hiring for a few Switch Online related positions. So they have 4 different positions posted: one for a game software development technical coordinator, a front-end engineer, a back-end engineer, and also a director/planner type person. And this is all tied to Nintendo Switch Online. So could this be somehow an expansion of Nintendo Switch Online for their upcoming console? I mean, I guess only time will tell.
And speaking of bringing things in, Nintendo Switch is also beating up Nintendo Switch Online with new games. Like I mentioned before, on June 6th, Nintendo Switch Online added 5 brand new games to the Game Boy app, which is Mega Man Dr. Wily Revenge 2, 3, 4, and 5. Keep in mind that the Game Boy is part of the lower tier, so if you only have the $20 a year, you get access to these games. And interesting enough, this is the first time, I think, where we've had back-to-back additions to NSO for the same system, because the last time we got games was the Mario games on the on the Game Boy app as well. So if you're interested in old school Mega Man, these are different than the NES games. Do check them out. They're readily available.
And we're ending, or not we're ending, we're getting close to the end of this Pseudo E3 season. And a big piece of that is the Summer Game Fest. And Jeff Keighley has went on record saying that we are thrilled to announce that Summer Game Fest will return to Los Angeles in June 2025, including play days from I Am 8-Bit and live streamed showcase event that fans can attend. So they're excited to continue building on what they've done so far for Summer Game Fest. Be back in June 2025. So, Greg, any thoughts on any of these stories?
Thankfully, this is like a much shorter list than our last episode, but yeah, the hiring positions. I mean, Nintendo's always probably looking for talent from time to time, so it's kind of hard to really read into what these roles will entitle. I mean, hopefully, I guess the main thing that matters is an improved experience for Nintendo Switch Online, because it's kind of the joke these days how it's not the best system, even though we're paying for it. So here's to hoping that it does improve with the release of their next console. The Mega Man games going to Game Boy is really cool. I do remember like all their announcements back in Nintendo Power when like they were releasing those, but I've actually never played any of the 5 of them. I always was kind of confused why it's like, why are there like bosses for Mega Man 2 and 3 in this one, and why is like 3 and 4 in this one? It's like I was kind of puzzled like why they had made them that way, but I'll have to finally check them out and hopefully have fun going through them like Barry did already. But I guess unlike the NES ones, he was saying that they are better. Like the later ones are much better. Where I think on the NES it's the exact opposite. Where where like usually like 2 and 3 on NES.
Differing of opinions. There we go.
I don't know. From at least what I've read and seen, like people praise like 2 and 3 being the best, like 2 in the entire like NES series. But yes, there are quality of lives in 4, 5, and 6, but that's where it's differing opinions, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it is pretty cool to have an in-person event next summer for Summer Games Fest. I don't know if I would personally attend it or anything, but it's still kind of cool that they're kind of bringing that back, and hopefully we can see some other live events as time goes on.
Yeah. Barry, how about you?
Yeah, I think the new positions, like Greg said, they're definitely trying to beef up NSO. They've got plans for the Switch 2. We know they've stated that. So hopefully this is to make sure that NSO runs properly on the Switch as well as the Switch 2. Beefing up the NSO library, I fully believe that the Switch 2 is going to be backwards compatible not only with all games, both physical and digital, but also the NSO apps. I think that those would just carry over. And for those that maybe never got into the Switch architecture and are jumping in on the Switch 2, they get instant library with all these NSO titles. So it's great to see them beef that up. And the Mega Man Game Boy games, we wanted that. There was supposed to be Mega Man Mania, which was supposed to come out in the GBA, and that was canceled. It was going to have all of them updated. And so it's great to just let people play these games and experience these games, especially Mega Man 5, because Mega Man 5 is often forgotten about, and it's a completely original game with brand new bosses, brand new story, brand new helper. Poor Tango has only been seen there, and it's just great that now everyone can access these games and just have fun with them, because they're great in their own way, and especially even the older ones, you just take into account that is older Game Boy and less things were introduced at the time that are now staples, like sliding in the first game. You can't slide, and the Mega Buster, can't do that in the first 2 games either, because that didn't come around till 4. So it's good fun. And as for Summer Game Fest, that's no surprise, but it's good and healthy to see that it's continuing, especially where we live in an age where E3 is coming or going, and ReedPop's here and now they're not, and what's going on with it. It's nice to have that certainty. Just any type of convention you do, it's nice to, when you're leaving, have that billboard that says we will return next year on these dates. It's like that shows healthiness. But then I don't know if you saw the prices that were posted for airing at Summer Game Fest. For like a 30-second slot, it was $250,000. For like a minute slot, it was like $350,000. So at those costs, I can see why they're going to do it again, because that's a lot of money being made. And in fact, it got to the point that Day of the Devs even made a statement saying, our show is put on by our sponsors. Any devs we show off, it doesn't cost them anything. We're doing this for the love of the game. We're doing this to show off and give these devs some spotlight, but it's all done via sponsorship from other companies, including Summer Game Fest. They sponsor Day of the Dev. So it's just interesting, but that doesn't make sense. Jeff Keighley is kind of positioning himself as being like the center of the gaming universe at this point between the Game Awards and Summer Game Fest, and definitely was that vulture watching E3 slowly die. I'm like, I'm gonna pick apart your bones. Here I am, in-person event now.
Yeah, well, and it was a good time to strike. There was definitely a void there for sure. So I don't blame him at all. But I also don't blame some of the big names. You know, Nintendo's probably never going to step into Summer Game Fest because they don't have to pay those kind of prices. They can do their own thing and get just as much coverage. And so it's kind of keeping it in this specific lane moving forward for companies that are big enough to afford that want that sort of thing that will boost them. But it's eliminating the huge companies like, you know, Nintendo, but it's also eliminating those indie developers that like, there ain't no way they can afford those kind of things.
He does bring on some indie devs. Like he cherry picks a few that resonate with him and gets them there.
But just the random ones that aren't chosen. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So it is interesting. But at the same time, I mean, as we're going to talk about, there are so many games and so many things going on that you kind of do need to pick your lane. And it seems like he's definitely doing that, but also making himself, and his thing that he's building at the center of video games right now. And you know, if anybody's going to do it, Jeff Keighley's the person to do it. So kudos to you, Jeff, for jumping on there. Like you guys said, I'm excited. Anytime Nintendo posts stuff like this, like they're going after some good engineers and coordinators to make their online stuff better. That should be good, hopefully, for the Nintendo Switch and anything they're building beyond that. And I think I'm with you, Greg. I don't remember playing any of the Mega Man games on Game Boy. Definitely played them on NES and a little bit on SNES, but I kind of moved on from them at that point. But excited to have them now, and with the rewind feature and all that stuff, then I don't have to worry about dying a whole bunch of times and having to start over again. So that's great. I can just abuse that because I don't care anymore. Like I have moved beyond. I am not too proud to use that stuff.
Yep, I'm same here. I mean, that's how I've unfortunately had to beat games like Ghosts and Goblins and other things like even Super Mario Land. Like I was using the rewind and save state stuff just because I don't really like having to replay stuff that I've already passed, and it's just frustrating to have to replay the same stuff over and over again just to make it back to where you were.
Yeah, it's nice to just be able to say I've beaten it and I've experienced all of it. I have no interest in being, a speed runner and trying to beat this as fast as I can without dying or anything. That's cool. If you do that, awesome. I'll probably watch maybe some of your videos online, but I don't need to do that myself.
Exactly.
So let's move into this gigantic gaming showcase season. And we've got a lot of different showcases to talk about. We're going to basically go in chronological order from June 5th and kind of move on because we've talked about some of the ones that happened in May in our last episode. So from June 5th, we had an event, and then it basically just kind of picked up from there, and they're continuing to go. As we said earlier, this is being recorded on June 13th, so we're still one day ahead of the Yacht Club Games Showcase that they're going to be doing on June 14th, so that's why we're not including it here. And also, the Nintendo Direct, as of recording, has not happened yet. So chances are that it's probably going to drop at the exact same day that we publish this on June 18th. And you're going to be wondering, why aren't they talking about the Nintendo Direct? Well, that's the reason, because we recorded this on June 13th. But we'll be back the next episode to talk about Nintendo Direct. But on June 5th, we had the OTK Games Expo that premiered, I think, 5-6 games. So, Greg, tell us a little bit about the OTK Games Expo.
Yeah, so this was like a shorter stream than some of the other ones that we'll be talking about later. So, as Steve just said, there's only about 5 games that were at least coming to Nintendo Switch that we'll be highlighting here. So there's the Athenian Rhapsody that's releasing on April 4th. I guess it's already out, April 14th, 2024. It's like a turn-based RPG type game. Then there's Akatori, and it's a Metrovania-style game that will be coming out. We don't know when. It just says TBD. Then there's Just Crow Things, also TBD, but just a note there. It's made by the same creators as Rain on Your Parade. So that should be interesting to talk about further there. And it's like a sandbox adventure game where you play as a crow and can cause all sorts of havoc and mischief, as like you were like in the Rain on Your Parade and like other games like Untitled Goose Game and such. Then there was a Saboris. I'm assuming this is a placeholder date, but it says December 31st, 2025. So likely just 2025 release. It's a horror game where you can play as a chicken and you're trying to get out of a deadly slaughterhouse. And then finally, there was Wild Bastards. It's releasing on September 12th of this year, and it's a spiritual successor to Avoid Bastards. It's a hybrid FPS strategy game with tactical combat and other big systems and stuff for like skills and abilities and whatnot, and it has like a roguelike campaign. So I guess, Steve, did you check out any of these games or any of these stand out to you?
Yeah, I mean, anytime we see Metroidvania kind of games, I know that's something that Greg, you and I both enjoy. And you're, I think, a bigger fan of those than I am, but I usually do enjoy those. And you put it with a slasher, I'm like, okay, that's kind of fun to be able to go around and play, and basically switching between two different parallel dimensions the whole time. And that kind of mechanic is fun as well. Played a few different games like that over the years. So that one stood out. And then Just Crow Things just looks fun. Like you said, with like Rain on Your Parade or Untitled Goose Game is a game I've played a lot of as well. And it's just fun. You can like, they even talked about like one of the things you can do is poop on people. I was like, that just seems like fun. I may have a bad day and I just need to open up a game and poop on some people. So maybe that'll bring me some joy or something. But yeah, those are definitely the two that stood out to me.
What about you, Barry?
Yeah, Athenian Rhapsody looks really interesting. I didn't realize it was out, but I love the colorful, cartoony vibes. Akaton or Akatori, absolutely. I guess Steve forgets that I love Metrovanias too. So that's totally up my alley and absolutely something that I'm very much interested in. And I'm glad Just Crow Things has finally shown off. It's a game I've actually known about for a while because we released Rain Your Parade, and it's, I'm friends with the developer and I've talked with him about it, and he showed me some early stuff regarding that, and I was like, oh, that looks so cool, but I couldn't say anything. But now that it's been revealed, I can just say that he's very, very talented, and there's a lot of love being poured into those games, so I'm very excited for it as well.
Yeah, at least from me personally, I might be checking the Athenian Rhapsody out. That was kind of interesting how it is like the Greek style themed and stuff, and I do like some of the RPG kind of stuff. And then, as Steve said, the Akatori is definitely up the alley with the Metroidvania style game. And then, Just Crow Things was definitely at least my highlight of this particular showcase, just because I do really love those silly games because it's just easy to just play and get a big smile on your face, just causing kind of mischief and havoc and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Saboris did seem kind of interesting, and I think I like the concept behind it. It's probably not a game that I'll play, but escaping as a chicken from a deadly slaughterhouse just sounds like, I'm like, okay, we're getting creative here for sure. Yep. With games.
And I do like that we're moving away from just cats too. So now we got crows, we got chickens, and man, so
it's the turn of birds are coming in the gaming scene now. Man, that is true. Crows and chickens. Here we go.
Well, to be fair, Untitled Goose Game was a bird too.
That's true, but it was ahead of its time.
Yeah,
it set the pace. So geese, chicken, and crows are coming in. We're going to take over the cats and everything else that have been here. Well, speaking of another animal, the Gorilla Collective showcase happened on June 6th. And Barry, tell us a little bit about what happened at the Gorilla Collective showcase.
Wrong gorilla, though, unfortunately, Steve.
Oh, that's true.
It's gorilla because it's like guerrilla warfare, not gorilla as in the animal gorilla.
The ape.
No, it's guerrilla warfare style. It just comes at you, hard and fast with a lot of games. And they did show off a lot of games in this presentation on June 6th. So I'm just going to go through, do a couple at a time. These are all the ones that were shown off confirmed for Switch. Again, disclaimer, that doesn't mean other titles shown off will not be for the Switch or the Switch 2. These are just ones confirmed for the Switch. So we have Vulgar the Viking 2, which is coming August 6th, which is a Shovel Knight-like platformer, and the first game is already on the Switch as well. Neon Blood, which is coming Q4 2024. It's a cyberpunk detective RPG adventure game. We've got SteamWorld Heist 2, which Nintendo showed off at the last Direct as well, or the Indie World. August 8th, 2024, and a strategy adventure. Killing Time is coming sometime. It's to be determined. It's an HD remaster of the classic first-person shooter. And Tomba Special Edition, which is coming August 1st, 2024, which is a remaster of the PS1 game, which is a platformer, and it's finally coming to a Nintendo platform. So, Greg, we'll go to you first. What do you think of these 5? Anything stand out?
The Vulgar the Viking 2, it sounded kind of interesting to me. I like how they brought back like at least that Shovel Knight mechanic where like if you die you lose like a bunch of gold and then you can venture your way back to try to like pick it up and recollect it and stuff. But I don't know if it's going to be a little bit too difficult for my liking. But I mean, will be for sure kind of interested to see how that pans out. But that was at least the main one I took away. I'm still on the fence for SteamWorld 2. I didn't even play the first one, but I know that was just a drastically different than like the SteamWorld Dig games, which I absolutely adored and loved. But I didn't really check out the Heist series quite yet, and so I'll be looking for some more information on that one. But those are at least the main 2 that really stood out to me in this set.
Greg took the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly basically what I was going to say. Vulgar the Viking 2. Yeah, I didn't play the first one. But yeah, anything like Shovel Knight, I'm going to be interested in. And similar to Greg, I really enjoyed SteamWorld Dig. I played a little bit of Heist 1, and it's just normally not my style of game, but this one looks really, really good. And so I'm kind of on the fence as well, but yeah, I'm definitely going to be looking into it more.
Yeah, Vulgar the Viking 2 does look really good, and I have the first, I just never played it, but I might have to change that. And for me, I've never gotten to the SteamWorld games, so Heist 2 doesn't do as much for me. But Tomba Special Edition is one of those games I just never played. I have it on the PlayStation. I've heard good things, but I never got to play it. So, I'm looking forward to actually getting to play it on more modern hardware. But let's go forward another couple games. We have Anton Blast, which is coming November 12th, 2024. It's the Wario Land style platformer, and there's a demo already available that I know Steve has played. Clock Tower Rewind, which is coming later this year. It's a remaster of the SNES survival horror game and first in the Clock Tower series. Five Nights at Freddy's Into the Pit is coming soon. It's a 2D pixel horror game. Demon School, which is coming later this year, is a grid-based RPG, and the Transylvania Adventure of Simon Quest, which is coming next year. It's a retro Castlevania-like platformer. Steve, let's go to you first this time.
I really want to like Anton Blast, and I really talked about it in a previous episode how I did not like the demo. So if they improve upon it, I mean, it's not coming out till November, so maybe they've got some time to improve on some things and see. So I'm still anticipating that it might be better, and I'm just a little skeptical. But I got some time before that comes out. So, but yeah, it's got potential. But the demo didn't do it for me. But at the same time, so did the Princess Peach game. The demo was horrible, and I heard people loved the final game. So, it could be a situation like that. The only other game that really, I think Clock Tower Rewind is interesting. I'm usually not into survival horror games, but the concept is very interesting, and the fact that they're remaking an SNES game is really cool. And then the only other one that stood out to me was the Transylvania Adventure of Simon Quest. I'm like, how did they, that is basically Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest somehow re-put in a different wording, and somehow they got away with this. So because I don't think it's connected to Castlevania at all, but it makes it definitely looks like a Castlevania game. So I'm intrigued by that one as well, but that'd be it for this section.
And since I took the words out of Steve's mouth last time, he pretty much took it out of this time around. So the main one that I was looking forward to was, again, the Transylvania Adventure of Simon's Quest. And like Steve was saying, it's essentially just kind of like a actual like Castlevania 1 or even Castlevania 2 on the NES, kind of remade and made much better with more modern abilities and everything like that. But it did really look a lot of fun to play. I did really enjoy those classic Castlevania games before they abandoned the Nintendo hardware for a number of years. But that was pretty much the main one that really stood out to me. I haven't played the Anton Blast demo yet. I had downloaded it, but hopefully I can get to it at some point in the near future to see if I agree with Steve there, or if maybe I do like that one. I don't know.
Yeah, same for me. Same Transylvania adventure of Simon Quest. Absolutely, very much interested in. Not a horror guy, so Clock Tower and Five Nights at Freddy's, don't really do much. Demon School could be fun. Anton Blast, I got really excited when I saw the presentation back at the Indie World, and then Steve played the demo and talked about it, and I got less excited. So I'm going to be cautiously optimistic that it's going to be okay, and that they're taking feedback from the demo, because it is a demo. The game's not out yet, and they enhance the game. So I will see, but I'm hoping that it's good. Moving on, we've got Urban Myth Disillusion Center, which is coming later this year. It's a mystery visual novel. Double Shake, which is still to be determined for release. It's a 2.5D grab and throw action platformer. The Secret of Crystal Mountain. The Secret of Crystal Mountain is coming to be determined. It is a platform adventure with a fox. Girl and Valor 1949, which is coming sometime in 2025, is a tower defense game with mechs. And Sky Oceans Wings for Hire is a turn-based RPG that includes dogfights. Greg, go with you first, these 5.
Pretty much the main one that kind of stood out to me was the Secret of the Crystal Mountain. I think that was also covered in the indie thing. I believe that one looked kind of somewhat familiar, at least, unless it was just overlapping with another one of these showcases that will hit in a while. But I do like my platforming games; those are a lot of fun. That was at least the biggest takeaway for me for this set. But I did want to side note: it was actually Grit and Valor, and not Girl and Valor. So.
Be a completely different game.
It is Grit and Valor. You're right. Girl and Valor sounds good too, but that's totally my error. Grit and Valor.
No one claimed that. Barry's going to make that game.
Girl and Valor.
Yeah, I don't blame you for getting all this stuff confused, Greg. It's like, where did I see that game before? Which showcase was it? I'm right there with you. Pretty much, I'll agree that, the Secret of Crystal Mountain kind of stood out. Any platform adventure game is going to grab my attention for the most part. Double Shake looks interesting as well, and Sky Oceans as well. Dogfights and stuff like that, I like any kind of air combat and stuff is also going to always grab my attention. So there's certain games that I'm like, if I see this specific mechanic, yes, I'm intrigued. You've got my attention, and each of those kind of do that. So a platformer, dogfight kind of stuff, I'm interested.
Yeah, Sky Oceans for sure reminds me very much of Skies of Arcadia, which I absolutely adored. So I'm very much interested to see how that comes out. And Double Shake as well looks really cool. And maybe even Urban Myth Disillusion Center could be fun. I'm a big fan of mystery visual novels, so we'll see. Moving on, we've got Bittersweet Birthday, which is coming next year. It's an action shooter game with souls like Dodge, or Dodge mechanics. Echo Generation Midnight Edition, which is coming July 10th, so next month. Turn-based adventure with new visual mechanics and quality of life updates from the original release of Echo Generation. Elsie, which is to be determined. It's a neon roguelike. There's Steve's favorite word there. Neon roguelike action platformer. Toxic Crusaders, which is an arcade beat 'em up based on the Tromaverse series. So, Steve, go with you first.
Yeah, this section wasn't really doing it for me. I'll say, like, the LC looked interesting, but again, it's roguelike, and I'm like, oh, great. Okay, well, you had me at action platformer, you lost me at roguelike. But then, yeah, Bittersweet Birthday kind of seems interesting as well. I don't play a lot of Souls-like games, but I think I could get into them. I just haven't done that much. And it's like a genre that I've just recently realized that I don't really play a whole lot, but I think I could probably get into this. Especially if I have the time. That's probably the biggest thing is finding the time to play all these. But yeah, those two kind of like, I'll say, yeah, Elsie was kind of interested, and Bittersweet Birthday. I think I might look more into this one.
What's interesting is earlier in this podcast, you talked about how you're fine with using rewind and other functions like that because you just want the experience. You don't want the challenge, and then say, "Oh, I think I can get into Souls-like games, which are known for their challenge."
No, I like yes, if it's built for that. But if it's like a classic game, honestly, if Bittersweet Birthday has a rewind feature, I will use it. Like, I think it's the mechanics itself. I enjoyed the challenge, but if there's a way to get around it, I will use it.
You will exploit it.
I will exploit it extremely. Yes.
What about you, Greg?
But yeah, I mean, like those kinds of mechanics, if they're built in, I would also use them as well. If it's part of the game, I don't consider that like cheating or whatever, trying to get through it. I mean, I understand it wasn't there for whatever the NSO type games, but those were also built to try to pad like the length time. So, yeah, I mean, with what Steve said, I mean, I would probably also be potentially interested in Elsie. It just depends on how many roguelike functions it is, and if it's just complete 100% roguelike, or if it's just like some light stuff that just changes just to make it unique every time. I don't really know. That could be something I would look into further. I think that was pretty much the main one that kind of least stood out this time around, though, for me specifically. Don't really get into a lot of the beat 'em up type games, and also some of the other ones as well too. But well, glad that there are games here for everybody, though. It's not like all the same set of games, like just repeat of farming simulators and stuff that we've seen in other showcases.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with you there with Elsie. I think it could be good. Toxic Crusaders, I think, looks fantastic, and I'm excited for. And Echo Generation, I can see being fun. I never played the original, so it depends how they do it. So we'll go to the last group now, the last of the Guerrilla Collective shown off that are confirmed for Switch. We have Iron Meat, which is coming later this year. It's a Contra-like platformer. Beyond the Ice Palace 2, which is also coming later this year. It's a fast-paced action platformer. Renane, which is to be determined. It's an old-school action platformer set in a colorful world. And Constance, which is coming later in 2025, a 2D hand-drawn Metroidvania action platformer. Greg?
One thing I just realized that we forgot to probably mention was this particular showcase actually organized it by genre. So I think at least for this section of games is probably the most intriguing overall for me personally, because obviously it's more like the Metroidvania and also platforming type games. So like I had thought the Beyond the Ice Palace 2 looked like a lot of fun. Even like the Renane one also looks kind of interesting too, and even like Consonance as well. It's probably the biggest one out of this section. But yeah, I pretty much enjoyed like this last section of games that we're covering here.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Greg. This was definitely. I was like, oh yeah, that looks interesting. Oh, that does too. Oh, that does too. So they ended strong, at least in what we like for games, for sure. And I think the two that stood out the most was probably Iron Meat. Contra-like games are things that like I used to play a lot back in the day, but I haven't played a lot recently. But they always grab my attention, and I think, I need to get back to playing those sort of things. So this one might be one I end up picking up. And Constance looks really good. I love the hand drawn nature of it as well. And again, it's a Metroidvania action platformer. That kind of stuff is exciting, but yeah, it looks good as well. And I think that's something you've got to do. Like what can set you apart, and hand drawn graphics and stuff like that is one of those things that can definitely set you apart.
Yeah, I agree. And that is something we did forget to mention. And it's so unique with the showcase where they do branch it off. And we're like, this is the horror section, this is the Metroidvania section, this is the RPG section. And I agree. They ended strong. And these are all games. All four of them are interesting to me. So I'm very much curious to see how they turn out. And if I'll have time to play them. So that ends Guerrilla Collective. It was a great show, and glad they put that on.
Yeah. Well, then we moved on to later that day. We had a Homebrew Games Summer Showcase. They showed off several aftermarket games for NES, SNES, Genesis, Game Boy Color, and etc. And nothing really announced for Switch, but another cool showcase to go back and watch if you haven't watched it yet. And then we got to June 7th, and we had the Accessibility Summer Showcase. And this is one that's specifically focused on the accessibility features within games and really highlights that kind of stuff for those people who need accessibility features in order to fully enjoy video games. And I've just been excited about what the video game world has been doing over the last several years to really bring a lot of different people into the video game world. Like a lot of people that just normally wouldn't be able to play at all because of various things, but now they're working some different features and stuff within the consoles themselves and coming up with extra controllers that help people, but also building in features themselves within games. And so we got 3 different Switch games that were showcased, several others, again, like we said before, some of these games that were shown off may be coming to Switch later or maybe end up on the Switch successor. We don't really know. We're just going to be talking about the ones that were specifically mentioned for Switch. So we have Elsie, which is a repeat from the Guerrilla Collective that we just talked about as well. Those accessibility features are going to be difficulty and vision options, such as enemy outlines, high contrast, and desaturated backgrounds. And then a game called Rainbow Billy, Curse of the Leviathan, which is out now. And this is an action adventure game, and the accessibility features are colorblindness features, forced focus on the camera, no time limits, infinite retries, a difficulty slider, and text display options. And then we got The Darkest Files, which is coming soon. This is an investigation type game that has difficulty controls and also able to play with a one-handed controller as well, and also some options with fonts and texts as well. So, Greg, any of these games stand out to you just for the game themselves or what they're offering in accessibility options?
I am a sucker for the action-adventure games, so the Rainbow Billy does sound somewhat interesting. I don't know how it will pan out. I mean, they did cover that like the difficulty options aren't going to be like so intrusive where it's going to make it like drop dead easy, but it also it's more to attune with players that might not like have those difficulties with it. So at least that was the main one that had stood out that I may be checking out later. I mean, I already said Elsie had looked pretty decent there, and obviously just having more options and more features is always best for gamers of all shapes and sizes. So unfortunately, there's people out there with disabilities, and it's great that they have even a tighter showcase just on games that are much more friendly to other individuals that may or may not be able to really enjoy most games because of the way that they're made and not have these types of features.
Barry?
Yeah, I'm always a fan for options. I wish Nintendo would learn that button mapping, and even the NSO apps, like give us button mapping. Let people play the game the way they want to play, inverting cameras and seeing ledges and helpful hints and difficulties, all that stuff. Rainbow Billy is actually a game I kickstarted, and I do have it digitally and physically because I got the physical tier, but it also came with the digital code, and I just never played it. I kickstarted it, came out, I have it. I just haven't played it, but I might have to go find the time to eventually get to it. The problem is there's too many games. I already mentioned Elsie, and Darkest Files sounds interesting too. Again, I like mystery, I like investigation, so we'll see. And again, I love that they're doing things, and I know Microsoft has put out a controller, and Sony has a controller that are specifically for disabled people to allow them to play games and enjoy games, and I think that's wonderful. I think gaming as a hobby and a passion should be shared by everybody. No one should be excluded.
Yeah. I think it was one of those things, like in life, like, we're kind of have our blinders on for a while, and like I know my little world, but then I had a friend who was in a wheelchair and he had some disabilities with his hands and stuff like that. And I went over to his house, and he's like, "Oh yeah, let's play." And I didn't think anything about it. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, how do you even hold the controller?" And how he's playing, and he was really good. I mean, like, people are able to learn how to operate within all these different constraints, but to have these options now and controllers and options within the games is so cool. And I love the fact that they're highlighting this stuff. Elsie, yeah, we talked about that already. And Rainbow Billy is a game that I do remember you talking about, I think on a previous episode, about kickstarting it and stuff like that. And I kind of completely forgot about it. And so I'm going to have to look into that as well. Then moving on, we had the Indie I/O showcase that happened that day, and nothing specific that was mentioned for Switch. Again, maybe it might be coming eventually or on the Switch successor, but nothing that was specifically mentioned on Nintendo Switch. And then after that, we had the PM Studios showcase. So, Greg, tell us about what was shown off at PM Studio Showcase.
Okay, so like the main highlighted games were only for Steam only, but then as soon as they got to the sizzle reel, it was like that each game only got like 5-10 seconds of screen time, and that's where we got a list of like 12 games that are coming. So yeah, I'll just probably go through a few at a time and then throw it back to each of you guys. So the first game was a game called Let's School, and it's going to be releasing this summer. It's like a builder and like Sims kind of style game where you can just build your own schools. Then there's Exophobia that's going to be released on July 23rd. At least that's what they released now. Obviously, that can change down the road. It's a retro style like first-person shooter type game. Then there's Cricket, Jay's Really Peculiar Game. It's coming out on August 15th, 2024. And that's like I believe that's an action RPG game. It was kind of hard to tell with the very short amount of footage that was shown. And then My Time at Sandrock Online, and that's also coming out this summer 2024. And based on what was shown, it almost looks like one of those dating and sim type games where you can foster relationships with different people within the game. I don't think it's like an online multiplayer type game. It's already predetermined, and one of those games where you can kind of pick who you want to be dating and whatnot. So, Steve, any of these stand out to you?
I feel like we seen stuff from My Time at Sandrock before.
Yeah, My Time at Sandrock's already out, and it's the sequel to My Time at Portia. And both
that's
games
right.
Well
okay, so this is an online version of that game. Is that right?
I'm guessing so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just maybe like a game that can be like lives on forever type thing because it'll be online, and I guess maybe you could develop. If it is online, then I guess you would be potentially developing relationships with other players, but I don't really understand.
Unless it's My Time at Sandrock Online, like we're all back in 2020 and doing school online, and that's what it is. It's a simulator for an online school. But I'm not interested in it either way. I just was like, oh, I recognize that title. Probably. I think of any of them, like Cricket kind of seems interesting. Exophobia, I think retro styled FPS is fun. Like I don't get into modern FPSs, but retro style, I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued. We'll see where that goes, but nothing really big stood out to me. But those are the couple that kind of grabbed a little bit of my attention.
What about you, Barry?
Yeah, I'm the same. Nothing here has truly grabbed me. Cricket is the only one that has potential, but the others, they weren't for me. But I'm glad that they're out there for other people.
Yeah, and I do agree with Steve. Based on the small amount of footage, Cricket could be the main standout for me personally. But it's kind of hard to tell when there's only like 5 or 10 seconds of footage to even be able to grab the name of the game and the time frame that it's coming out and see that it's also included for Switch. So the next up is Dreadout 2, which is supposed to come out in the Q3 of this year. It's like a survival horror type game. Then there's Zoe Be Gone. It comes out in Q4 of this year, hopefully. And it almost seems like a bullet hell type game where you just lots of bullets on screen that you have to dodge and survive. Then we have Extremely Powerful Capybaras, also coming out in Q4 of this year. And it's one of those swarming type games where all the enemies just continue to circle around you and you have to move around and dodge and stay alive and take them out. Then we got Phantom Breaker Battlegrounds Ultimate, Q1 of next year, 2025. It's like a beat 'em up style game. And then the last one for this section Katsumi Tales, also coming out in Q1 of 2025, like an action platformer game. You can switch it up and shoot over to Barry first.
For this set, Witchspring R was the biggest one for me. Phantom Breaker Battlegrounds could also be a lot of fun. And Mu PM, and I'm friends with PM, but I say Mu PM for Dreadout 2 because I already bought the Asian English because it's already out there and as a physical. But sure enough, now they're bringing it over to America, so I'm like, I gotta buy it again. Mu, but no, I'm really happy that they're doing that and they're bringing games like that to more audiences. It's just not my type of game because I'm not a survival horror game.
Yeah. I think Zoe Bagon is any kind of shooter game like that is gonna grab me. We'll see how it actually goes. And then really the only other one that stood out, it has nothing. I'm not gonna play it, but it's just funny. Those the extremely powerful capybaras. Just because I think like swarms of enemies and those kind of games like that are interesting to me sometimes, but I just think it's funny that it's a really powerful capybara, and like I see another animal that's trying to creep into the video game space. Maybe it's going to take over cats and birds, but capybaras are great and they're cute. And playing a game with them where you kill hordes of enemies just sounds funny.
Yep. And then I think for me personally, I think either the Witchspring R, because it has some like RPG elements and stuff. I'm not always super big into crafting, but it kind of depends on the level they take it with that. And then pretty much the Katsumi Tales, the action platform that looked like a lot of fun too. I think it sounded almost seemed somewhat familiar to that Fox game that we talked about in the last grouping, or in the last showcase. But yeah, moving on to the final sections from this particular showcase, we got Stories from Seoul, the Gun Dog, and that's supposed to come out in February 2025. I couldn't even really get a description for this because I think it was just a cutscene from the game, so you couldn't even really tell what kind of game it was. Then we have The Courier, which is going to come out next summer, 2025, and you're kind of like delivering mail and to various NPCs, and it's also like an action platformer. Then we have another space opera that just labeled for 2025, and it's almost another like Contra style platforming shoot 'em up type game. And then the final game for this section coming to Switch is No Longer Human, also in 2025, a fast paced like combo platforming type game. So, Steve, anything for this section for you?
Yeah, I think those last two are really the ones that stood out to me. Another space opera. Again, Contra style is exciting. Have we seen this one before? Like it looked familiar, and like I thought so too. And like the name sounds familiar. It kind of looked familiar. Like, is that like, or again, am I dreamed this up? I don't know. But then No Longer Human as well. Yeah, definitely looks exciting. But overall, I like. There wasn't any of these games that like really stood out to me, but yeah, there's a couple here and there, and definitely those last two were some of them.
All right, Barry, what about you?
I'm going to echo Steve. Another space opera looks like a lot of fun, and No Longer Human caught my attention. And I think it could be a blast.
Yeah, for me personally, even the Courier kind of sound like an intriguing concept, but I feel like I need to see more, or hopefully there's a demo or something for it. But yeah, I was with you guys with another space opera. I do like the classic Contra style type gameplay as well too from other games that I feel like we've talked about already. So yeah, I guess we can move on to the next showcase, Steve.
Yes, the next one, IGN Live had their IGN Expo. It was a multi-day event. I believe the day one was the only day that actually talked about anything about Switch, at least from what I saw. Like I have not been able to watch all their different stuff because they had a bunch of different things going on. But we got Tales of Iron 2, Whiskers of Winter, which is a 2D Monster Hunter type game. And then we also got Matchbox Driving Adventures that's coming out on September 20th. It's a driving and racing game. Yeah. Barry, anything stand out to you from those two?
Tales of Iron 2. I heard really good things about the first one. I still have yet to play it, so I'm excited to see another one. And I didn't really get a chance to watch the Matchbox Driving Adventures trailer yet, but honestly, I grew up with Matchbox, and I love when there's racing games that use the toy car, like Penny Racers, if you remember that on the N64. So depending on how they do it, now the Hot Wheels games are really good on the Switch too. So depending on how they do it, this could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, Greg.
Yeah, the Tales of Iron 2, I believe that was another one from the indie showcase, because I do remember, like, I wasn't quite. That one did sound pretty interesting, and also the one that would have to want to check out the first one as well too. But that one also looked like a potentially a lot of fun, and like I'm usually kind of hit or miss on the driving games, so potentially Matchbox. I mean, I did grow up with the toy cars, but probably just still need to see more for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was more of a Hot Wheels person, still am. So I don't know if I'm going to go with Matchbox. I'm not sure. But yeah, if it's as good as Hot Wheels, it should be a really fun experience. But after the IGN Expo started, we hopped over to Summer Game Fest, which we talked about earlier, Jeff Keighley's big thing. But Barry, talk us through what happened at Summer Game Fest.
Yeah, so the big presentation that Jeff put on, it was first off, it was great to see it live, like on stage and stuff like that. It really reminded me back to the days of E3 where you would have the live, presentations. So kudos to that. I do appreciate that, but it also made it feel like Game Awards without the Game Awards, pretty much. But they opened with something that I was not expecting. I heard rumors that there could be this game, but what really got me was the fact that this is coming to Switch, and that's Lego Horizon Adventures coming this holiday. This is a Sony-owned IP that is being worked on by Guerrilla, the developers behind the Horizon games, coming to Switch. Yes, it's a Lego game, but it's like Lego Mario coming to PlayStation. Really, really interesting to see. I think it looks great. I did enjoy the Horizon games and the settings in the world. So I'm interested to see how they handle this, and it'd be weird to see another PlayStation game on Switch. They also had Sid Meier himself talk about Civilization 7. Sid Meier's Civilization 7 is coming next year. It's a strategy game, obviously a big strategy series, and 6 was on the Switch already, so it's nice to see them continue to bring these games to Switch. I'm going to jump a little ahead. I'm just going to carry the games only for now. Harry Potter Quidditch Champions coming September 3rd, 2024. That's a Quidditch-based sport game set in the Harry Potter universe. And Power Rangers Rita's Rewind is coming sometime soon. It's TBA. It's a beat 'em up, 2D beat 'em up, like the SNES and Genesis Power Ranger games. Looks like they're doing the Shredder's Revenge thing that they did for Turtles, but now they're doing it for Power Rangers. So these 4 games are all confirmed for Switch. Greg, what do you think of these 4?
I've been kind of interested in like the Lego games, so sounds like it might be up my alley. I did enjoy the Lego City Undercover back on Wii U and that era of like Lego games, so I may or may not check that out. I do like the action adventure and how they just have a nice little spoof on some other types of games, so that does sound kind of interesting. May or may not look into the Harry Potter one. I am usually a fan of it, but I don't know about with like the sport aspects of it. I'm not really into the main sport games, but just trying to be able to play Quidditch does sound like it could be potentially a lot of fun there. So as soon as you were talking about the Power Rangers game, I immediately thought of Hassan, our former host. So I'm sure that was his hugest takeaway of like all these shows that we're probably going to be talking about today. But yeah, that was at least those 2 are the main ones that stuck out for me.
Yeah,
really, Steve.
Yeah, I'm sure Hassan was really excited about that for sure. Yeah, with you, Lego Adventures, Lego Horizon Adventures. I get into almost every Lego game that comes out. There's a couple that have not been great. That one where you're actually building in 3D space, and it was hard. We talked about that in previous episodes. That was not very fun. But the actual adventure games and stuff like that with Star Wars and all the different, IP games, it's always fun. I've never been into Civilization. I think it's cool for people that are, but it's never been my thing. And then honestly, I don't know much about Harry Potter at all. My wife is the huge Harry Potter fan, and she's super excited about visiting the Harry Potter world at Universal really soon and everything. The only thing that excites me about Harry Potter is Quidditch. And so I might actually check this game out. I'm not against Harry Potter at all. I just haven't read the books, haven't really watched the movies. But I thought, hey, Quidditch looks fun. And now I can play in a video game. I might actually end up picking it up. And maybe I'll play with my wife. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm with you. Lego. I haven't played a Lego game in a while, but I did have fun when I did play them. But this one is one I might have to play, just because again I like the Horizon games, and the fact that it's coming to Switch is just fantastic. Maybe we'll see more. And I'm not a big Civilization fan. My wife is, so she was really excited to see Sid Meier appear, and I just think it's great to see this series continue on the Switch. I'm not a Harry Potter fan either, like you, Steve, but my wife is a very big one. So I showed her this trailer, and she was excited. So I'll be getting it, and I'm sure I'll be watching her play, but I don't think I'll play it. Although it could, who knows? I could turn around and I could wind up becoming addicted to it. And I am a Power Rangers fan, so I'm absolutely excited for Rita's Rewind. I think it looks really good, and excited to see what they do. So then there's two groupings I want to just discuss because there was a bunch of other games shown. None of them were confirmed for Switch. However, as a caveat is A, they could be confirmed for Switch at a later date, and B, they could be coming to the Switch too, and they just can't announce that yet. So that's always a big caveat with any of this stuff. So Blumhouse, the horror movie studio, is making a game publishing studio now for horror games and indie games. Blumhouse Publishing Games is what they're calling it, and they came on stage and they announced a bunch of games. These most likely will come to Switch. One is definitely confirmed, but we don't know. They all have potential, so I figured we'd cover this because it's a brand new publishing studio, and then of course for the horror aficionados, love Blumhouse. They did the Five Nights at Freddy's movie more recently. So they announced Chris Saul, Theater of Idol, which is coming from Vermilion Studios, Grave Seasons, which is coming from Perfect Garbage, Sleep Awake from Eyes Out, Fear the Spotlight from Cozy Game Pals, The Simulation from Play Me Studio, and a brand new game from Half Mermaid, the developers of Immortality. So I don't know if you guys are big horror, if any of these caught your attention. Steve, we'll go to you first.
Nope, I'm not. I think it's cool. I think to have publishing studios like this, though, that can really specialize in this kind of games. Blumhouse knows what they're doing. And so I think it's exciting. But I usually don't really get into horror games. Occasionally I'll play things like Resident Evil, but it's been a long time since I played a Resident Evil game. I really liked Eternal Darkness back in the day, but I mean, that's like the era of horror games that I've really played and enjoyed. I played a couple since then that have been really bad. We've talked about them here on the channel. But yeah, like it's not really my thing, but excited because, someone like Blumhouse really knows what they're doing, and it's cool that they're bringing all these studios together.
What about you, Greg?
Not the largest of the even horror type stuff in general. Like, I don't even really look at a lot of the horror movies and TV shows and stuff like that. But as what Steve said, it's still great that they have something to help focus on this kind of stuff. And who knows, maybe they can always convince me to check out some of these. Like, never really know for sure these days. So
never know. I'm in the same boat, by the way. I'm not a horror guy. But again, I think that's really cool that they're doing this. And I know, for those that are absolutely live and die by horror, this is a big deal for them. And if you're listening and this is a big deal for you, that is fantastic. That's why I wanted to cover it, in case you didn't know about it, because this is, it could be some great gaming ahead for you. And then the creators of Among Us came on stage, and they showed off a sneak peek at the animated series they are doing, which, Among Us is already on Switch. But they're also taking the money that they generated from Among Us, because Among Us was so popular and garnered a lot, and they're taking a lot of that, and they're starting this Outer Sloth publishing company or publishing label. And what they're doing with that is they're using that money to help different smaller indie developers and get their games out there, which is really fascinating and awesome to see them give back to gaming. So no systems were announced for these games, so they've very well could come to Switch, or they could not. But I wanted to mention it here because that is a really cool thing. And the games they showed off include Mars First Logistics, Battlesuit Aces, Mossfield Archives, One Bit Bosses, Rogue Eclipse, and Project Dosa from Outer Loop Games. So these are the ones that were shown off. Greg, go to you first. Did any of these, when they showed them off, look good or interest you? Or I know you're an Among Us fan. You play with your daughter.
Yeah, it was kind of hard to tell. I mean, I didn't really watch this showcase, but I'm sure that there could be one or two like here that could like step out. I mean, I do like the Among Us brand, and I believe like even that like Slothware thing is like already shown when you load up the game Among Us. So, as you said, that's great that they're giving back and helping to try to raise up other like games and to publish other creators' games. So, I didn't watch this, so I don't really want to speak if I have interest or zero interest, because it's kind of hard to say without any type of description along some of these games, and just reading like headlines. It's kind of hard to understand like what these games are about without actually seeing like the clips of it.
Yeah, I'm with you, Greg. I because there's so much going on, I only focused on the stuff that was definitely out for Switch and tried to skip past everything else because there's so much to find. So like, oh, these aren't definitely coming to Switch. I'm gonna skip through them. So there's not a lot for me to say either. But it is cool. Like I love like the heart behind what they're doing and saying, oh wow, we have some success. Now let's help others that are new in this as well, and let's help them out too. So I love what they're doing there. And yeah, if they end up coming on Switch, or maybe eventually I'll give some of them a look, but don't know a whole lot about them right now.
I'm with you that it's hard to tell because they just showed them really quickly. It was just like, here they're coming. But since they obviously have Among Us on Switch, it wouldn't surprise me if they would have their publishing label also take their games to Switch. None of them looked like super like high def in terms of like the Switch couldn't handle it. And there's always the caveat of the Switch too, the giant elephant in the room. So it was great to see studios give back. I think we need more of that. I think we need more of the ones that do find the success to give back to the little guys. So if any of these excite you, please let us know. But it's really cool. And again, I don't know if you knew about the animated series, Greg, something to watch with your daughter. But they showed off a clip, and if you're an Among Us fan, it looks like right up your alley. The creators are working on it. So
yeah, I'll have to be sure to check that out, because I'm sure she would love to watch that kind of stuff. She did like the Pokemon anime stuff that was on Netflix and other things like that too. So Among Us is still a game that we play periodically over here. So it'd be kind of cool to see how they adapt it into a TV series.
That's true. So right after Summer Game Fest, we had Day of the Devs. So let's jump into that, Barry.
Day of the Devs started right after, which they've done for the past few years now. Day of the Devs is put out by Double Fine and I'm 8-Bit. Double Fine, of course, Tim Schafer, which is ironically owned by Microsoft, but they still put out showcases. And as I alluded to earlier, these showcases are free for the developers. This is paid for by sponsors. So it did end with a giant ad like, please sponsor us and please remember and help us out and all that. But they showed off 5 games that were definitely confirmed for Switch. They showed off a lot more games that aren't confirmed as of now. But the 5 games confirmed: Arranger, which is a role-playing adventure coming the 25th of July. So next month. This was shown in an indie direct. This is where like you move the entire tile every time like you move to the right, the whole tile slides. And that includes characters like villagers, buildings, everything just moves around. So it's top-down view. We have Fear the Spotlight, which is coming this year, which is something that we just talked about with the Blumhouse, which is a PS1 style horror game. So that one is coming to Switch, confirmed. We have got Chroma, which is either Q3 or Q4 of this year. It's a pixel horror game. Little to the Left, which is a game that we have talked about before because it's already out on the Switch, is getting a brand new DLC pack. It's the second one called Seeing Stars. That is coming June 25th of this year. More puzzles, 38 new levels, and 100 stars to collect. And After Love EP is coming Q3 2024, which is a story-driven adventure visual novel. And Greg, let's go to you. Anything there, come out to you.
Yeah, so I was a big fan of the arranger from the Indie Direct back in April or whatever that was. Like, I believe that was like my main takeaway of the entire indie thing. So that was definitely nice to see that one displayed here again, and still pretty much excited to be checking that out, and glad it has like a release date and all of that fun stuff to be checking out later this summer. But pretty much the horror games, as said previously, those aren't usually my cup of tea. May or may not look into like the like the Afterlove one, because if it's like Life is Strange, then sure it could be a lot of fun to go through, but it might need another trailer or something just to rewatch, just to see if it's good for me to check out. And then don't really know too much about A Little to the Left, but if it's a puzzle game, then it might be something that I look into checking it out, especially if there's gonna be some additional puzzles. I do enjoy puzzle games here and there, so that was at least for me.
What about you, Steve?
Yeah, nothing really stood out to me at all in this one at all. I mean, like a Ranger, I could get behind it. I just feel like I will like find it annoying since the whole thing shifts and stuff. I feel like I'm like, this is one of those games. If I played like some sort of adventure that has puzzle games in it or whatever, this is one of those puzzles that I think I just want to get through as fast as I can. And if I have a whole game that's built around the entire thing sliding around, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to enjoy it. I love that, Greg, that excites you. I think I would just get annoyed by it. But same thing with you guys on the horror games. A Little to the Left, I don't need to be arranging things and storing things in digital form. I have plenty to do that in my own life. At least 38 new levels in my basement alone, and who knows how many stars to collect and things that I've misplaced and all that stuff around my house. So I don't want to do it digitally. After Love EP is probably something I'll skip, but I'm like Greg, like I'll keep my eyes open and see what they have to offer as we continue to see more trailers and stuff like that. But probably going to skip it, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think a Ranger could be hit or miss for me. I think it looks like the premise is fascinating. I think absolutely the premise is fascinating, but like you, Steve, I worry that it's going to frustrate me more than entertain me. And when I get frustrated, I am not having fun with a game. So I'd have to see how it is. And maybe if if the devs are listening and they want to toss us review codes, I will gladly give this a shot. But it's one of those where I'm kind of wait and see. Like you guys, same with the horror. Little to the Left. I thought this DLC looked great. I thought this DLC looked completely different than A Little to the Left and the first DLC, which I know Steve and I both talked about how we don't need to do this in a game, we do it in real life. But this isn't the same type of puzzles. This is a different type of puzzle. So I'm like, that's interesting. Is this the same game? What this is added on? Okay, so that could be interesting. And After Love, again, like you guys, I'm interested to see how it goes and how they handle it. But there's definitely promise there. And speaking of promise, while there was a bunch of games that were shown off in this as well that are not Switch confirmed, that doesn't mean they're not coming to Switch. There was one in particular that I did want to draw attention to, and I don't know if you guys have seen this, if you watched the showcase, but this one stood out to me completely, and right now it's only PC. In fact, the devs said that he'd love to see it on Switch. It's PC only, but they desperately want to see it come to Switch. So there's a good chance it will be. And there's a game called the UFO 50. Did you guys see this trailer for UFO 50?
I didn't, but looking at, I just pulled it up real quick. Yeah, I also I don't know why it wouldn't come to Switch. It definitely seems like something that we could see on there. I mean, from like the old school NES kind of style and everything, definitely feels like it could.
The premise of UFO 50, which I love what they've done, is they've made a fictional console called the UFO. And this fictional console came out in this fictional world. And this is a collection of 50 games that came out on this fictional console. This is 50 unique full games. Some of them are shorter than others, but they are each done as potential standalone games, as if they were released on this console. And you get all 50 of them. There's different genres, from action to platforming to combat to strategy. They've been working on this for over 6 years right now. And you can follow the whole development, and you can play the games from like release order. Like, these are the launch titles, these are the mid, these are the end. And I think that whole premise is absolutely fascinating. And you're getting 50 games in one for this. And not everyone's going to be a winner for everybody. But I love that concept. I think this is fantastic, and I really would love to see this on Switch, because I think it would be a perfect fit. I don't know if you saw this at all, Greg, or not.
I didn't. I was just trying to look at it a little bit briefly now, after like Steve had also brought it up too. But it does seem very intriguing, and it seemed like, based on what you can tell from like the videos of some of the games playing it, it doesn't seem like the Switch should have any trouble handling some of that. And as you said, if you're already having 50 games on there, there's at least something for everyone on there. I mean, you have varieties of genres, you got different play styles, and you probably have some multiplayer versus solo experience type games. So it seems like it would be a pretty good fit for Switch, and wouldn't be. Hopefully, it can come make its way there, or obviously the Switch successor that is still looming in the shadows for us.
The fact that the dev wants this on there is a good thing, but this was absolutely my takeaway from this. And I love the concept. I think that's such a novel idea. Like, there's this fictional 16-bit console that never came out, that rivaled the Super Nintendo and Genesis, and here's 50 of their games. And like, I love it. I love like the amount of work to go into making that. And this could be an Action 52, where they're all terrible, or this could be something truly grand slam, and I guess only time will tell. But kudos to the ambition, for sure, and I'm very interested in this, so I did want to bring it up.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'd skipped over it, but okay. It's on my radar now, because they all look like they're. I mean, from the screenshots and stuff that they showed, they look like they could have been legitimate games.
Yeah.
And now they are legitimate, but back then, they have and so many different styles and everything. That's really cool. So moving on, we had the Devolver Digital Direct, and really the only thing they showed off for Switch specifically was Cult of Lamb Unholy Alliance, which is dropping on August 12th of this year. And they also announced that they're adding a free update with a 2-player mode that you can play as a goat. So that's exciting. Cult of Lamb, exciting for either of you guys?
I've heard great things about it. It's just not a game that I've played, but I've heard excellent things about it.
Yeah, I've never played it either, but I guess they're going along with the annual theme, and now we can play as a goat now. So
playing Goat Simulator, and now you can play as an evil goat in Cult of Lamb.
Should we talk a little bit about the actual presentation, because Devolver's all about their presentation?
We could, yeah, for sure. Yeah, to be honest, I skipped through it just because everything. It's one of those that I will go back and watch for sure, but also lack of time. This was one of those that I'm like, okay, I need to give it more attention, and I did not have the time to give it the attention, so I skipped through finding the games and just watched that alone. But
did you watch the presentation at all, Greg?
No, I didn't. But like Steve, it would probably be better to go back and appreciate it and not like try to rush through it, because I was scrambling to try to get games all set for all these other presentations that we're talking about.
Did they continue a storyline from before?
So this is kind of like a sequel to last year, where they created Volvi as a character, and they had talked about that. But instead of like having the creator and doing a presentation, this was like someone who was just obsessed, like a super fan of Volvi, and was like throwing a birthday party for him, and like had all the merchandise, and his neighbors are like calling the cops on him because he's kind of weird, and there's some weird noises coming from his house and everything. And what I found fascinating is they actually made an 80s style animated episode of Volvi, as if it was like the Mario Super Show in that style. And you see bits and pieces of like on the TV, dialogue and everything throughout the whole thing. And I was about to say to my wife as we were watching, like, I can't believe they created it just for those little things. And as it ends, it plays the full clip uninterrupted. I think that was just fantastic that they took the time to do that. I think they're going hard in on this whole thing, way harder than they need to for showing off like 5 trailers or whatever.
Right.
But I love it. I think the creativity is out there.
Yeah. I feel like they've kind of, I mean, at this point, they've kind of backed themselves into a corner, and they have to keep this up every year. Like, people will be like, "What are you doing if it doesn't happen?" So that's kind of one of those things that I'm like, yeah, like it keeps getting ridiculous and ridiculous. And yeah, I was interested since they kind of started with a new story last year, where they'd kind of go this year. So that's kind of, it's crazy for sure. So moving on to the next day. Starting off on June 8th, we had the Future of Play Direct. And of those, we only had really 2 games that were specifically for Switch that were mentioned. Again, like we said, throughout the whole thing, who knows what will eventually happen. But Slay the Princess is getting the Pristine DLC. This is going to be coming out, that DLC, in fall of 2024. This is a hand-drawn horror visual novel that was originally released in October 2023. And again, this is the Pristine DLC that will be dropping in fall of 2024. And then Echo Generation, which we talked about earlier in the Guerrilla Collective event. Echo Generation Midnight Edition is dropping on July 19th. Again, this is a turn-based RPG. So either of those games kind of stand out to you, Barry?
Like I said, Echo Generation definitely looks interesting, and I'm curious to see how it comes out. And Slay the Princess, I have not played. Again, I'm not big into horror games, but horror visual novels, for whatever reason, I enjoy. Danganronpa, the Zero Escape games, The Letter from East Asia Soft, Raging Loop, all of these I think are fantastic visual novel series. And they're all horror themed. And despite the fact that I don't watch horror, I don't like to be scared, I tend to go to horror visual novels. I don't know why. So I might have to look into this. This is weird.
Interesting. Yeah, and Slay the Princess looks like, I didn't even know about the game, let alone, the DLC they announced. I'm like, this looks freaky for sure. Like, I was like, I don't know about this. I'm sure it looks like a great game, but I don't think I'll be playing it. Greg, either of the Slay the Princess DLC or Echo Generation, which we talked about earlier, but either of those games stand out?
Like the Echo Generation, I think it seemed like it was mildly interesting, if I recall correctly, and but I guess just like what Barry was saying, the Slay the Princess maybe could be potentially interesting. I'd probably just have to see some more stuff as we get closer, or I mean, I think it's just the DLC that they announced for, right? So it's already out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I might just have to do some additional research on that to see if it's something I want to dive into. But as with like other games like Life is Strange, like it's kind of interesting to see like the whatever the visual novel type stuff. So
Well, moving on to the next event, this was another big one. We had the Wholesome Direct indie game showcase, and Wholesome Direct focuses a lot on what has now become a thing, and that's cozy games that are just wholesome games. And they're not all cozy games, but a lot of them were in the cozy category, which basically all these games were not horror genre. Let's just put it that way. The horror did not pop up in the Wholesome Direct. These are games that are not, they're family friendly, basically, and games that you would probably be able to play with your family around and things like that. And that's what they really want to focus on. And so we got a ton of games that were announced and shown off at the Wholesome Direct. So we're going to take several at a time, like we have before, and go through those. And these are all in alphabetical order, by the way. So we didn't grab them in chronological order from the Direct themselves. We went alphabetical order. So we got After Love EP, which is coming out in the Q3 of 2024. This is a slice of life adventure set in modern Jakarta about love, loss, and finding your way forward. And we got Caravan Sandwich. It's coming out soon. This is a 3D third-person narrative-driven exploration adventure. Critter Care is also coming out soon, where you renovate a cafe, bond with critters, and uncover the secrets of mysterious portals to give every critter a cozy home. And then we got Downfolk, which is also coming out soon. This is a charmingly dark, minimalist survival city builder where you collect resources and rebuild your realm one tile at a time as you protect settlers from the shadows. This is probably as close as you're going to get to a horror game in the Wholesome Direct. And then we also got Discounty that's coming out sometime. We get no specific date. And you're going to be managing your own supermarket and overcome those who want to take down your business. So of those 5, Greg, any of those stand out?
Yeah, I believe it was the Afterlove EP was also part of the Day of the Devs that we just kind of discussed. So that one does seem kind of mildly interesting. That might be something to check out. The Caravan Sandwich also seems kind of somewhat interesting with it. Another narrative-driven type game, but at least those were the main 2 that stood out to me.
Yeah. Barry, how about you?
I'm going to echo Greg. Those are the 2 main ones that we talked about. Afterlove and Caravan looks pretty good. The other ones have interesting premises, but I don't necessarily think they're going to get my attention.
Yeah. I am right there with you as well. Critter Care looks a lot like maybe Animal Crossing slashed with Pokemon, basically. And I don't really want to run my own supermarket, so I'm not going to be doing that.
You don't?
Not really my thing. I worked at a supermarket for about 4 months in high school and stopped. And I wasn't even close to running it. I was just stocking shelves, and that was not my thing. So, as we've already talked about, I don't want to do it in a video game. I'm not going to do it in real life either. Stocking shelves and organizing things is a pain.
I think you'll gladly take a review code to add it to our lawn simulator and construction simulator
There you
games.
go. That will probably happen now. Then we got a game called Free Ride. It's coming out Q1 of 2025, where you board a train into the spirit world in an oddball RPG where you make friends, use telekinesis, find secrets, eat ice cream, and chart your own path, as you do. And then Garden of the Sea is coming out sometime in the future, where you grow your garden, nurture local creatures, furnish your home, and adventure across the seas. This was only in a VR version before, which released in 2022, but it's coming out sometime for consoles and PC, I believe, as well. And then Kamuru, I don't know how to pronounce this, but A Frog Refuge is coming out on June 8th. Actually, it's already out now. This is a cozy farming sim where you foster a sanctuary for frogs to restore the biodiversity of the wetlands in Kamuru. And Culebra, I don't know how to pronounce that either. Why did I give myself this section of games? Culebra and the Souls of Limbo is coming out soon, where you gather clues, items, and evidence to help the residents of Limbo move on to into the afterlife. And then we'll also talk about Magical Bakery, which is coming out sometime this year in 2024, where you become the ultimate magical baker and prove yourself worthy to inherit the magical bakery. So, Barry, what stands out to you from this section?
Free Ride by far. That just seems really interesting. I love oddball RPGs, and I think this looks really neat. And Garden of the Sea could technically be cool. The fact that it was VR and now it's not, but I'll have to see how it works.
Yeah. Greg, how about you?
Kind of echo what Barry was saying. A Free Ride definitely seems the most interesting to me, just because it's being an RPG, and even just having like other random stuff like using telekinesis always sounds like it'd be potentially interesting. So that was like the main one that stood out to me. Garden of the Sea, probably not so much, but never really know. I mean, it's still kind of hard to tell at this point in time because there's so many games and so many trailers.
Yeah, basically like Animal Crossing with being able to adventure a little more. And eating ice cream in a game is fun too. No, I think it's cool to see some of these that kind of, when you're boarding a train to the spirit world, I'm like, okay, that sounds interesting. And I'm probably not going to play the Cameru Frog Refuge, but I think it's interesting to build a sanctuary for frogs. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. And then the Souls of Limbo, it seems really interesting as well, like helping them into the afterlife. Again, not games that I'll probably play, but I'm intrigued by them going in some different fun new directions and stuff with all that. So moving on after that, we got Minami Lane, where you build your own street in this tiny, cozy, casual management simulator. That's coming out sometime in 2024, and there's going to be an update with an island expansion add-on as well. And we got Moonstone Island that's dropping on June 19th. So as of the release of this podcast, it's going to be tomorrow. This is a creature collecting life sim set in an open world with 100 islands to explore. And then we got this one confused me because it's all in a foreign language that I could not read, and luckily I had English underneath, and I think it's pronounced Amachapon. That's coming out sometime in the future, and they also don't have much about this game. What they showed off was very, very little, and then I went to the website to check even more out, and they don't tell you anything. You just see videos and GIFs of the game in place, and that's it. So what I can gather is it's a bunch of mini games where you create character worlds and you travel around this cartoony real world areas as a toy airplane, a bug, a car, and a rabbit toy. That's about all I can gather from that game. So maybe you guys know more, but that's what I got. And then a game called On Your Tail. This is coming out sometime in 2024. It's a sleuthy, story-driven 3D life sim filled with relaxation, investigation, and knowing how to play your cards right. And then Petite Island, which is also coming out sometime in 2024. This is an open world narrative where you can explore the island and meet all unique residents as you preserve the memories of your grandpa's youth. So, Greg, anything stand out to you?
Nothing, at least from this set, at least was standing out to me this time around. But I mean, you never really know as we get closer to the releases and everything with additional trailers and reviews and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, maybe Barry could talk more if there's something he caught in this grouping.
For me, Moonstone Island looks really interesting. I think there's a lot of fun to be had there. And Petite Island very well could have a lot of fun with. So I'm interested to see more on that too.
Yeah, I think what we find a lot in the indie games, but especially like the Wholesome Direct as well, is there's some that kind of like all of a sudden you're like there's some stories behind these games, and that's what really grabs me. Like Petite Island, I'm like, okay, someone made this because there's some memories from their a grandfather that they lost, and all of a sudden they're working this into a game. I'm sure that there's this bigger story that's coming from that, and people are turning those into gaming experiences, which is really cool. I mean, I probably won't play it, but it's really cool to see games like that coming out. But yeah, I don't think any of these really stood out to me a lot. Maybe On Your Tail. I'm kind of intrigued by that one a little bit. A couple of them, they seem like Pokemon games or Animal Crossing games, and they're kind of built around that kind of premise. But moving on, our last section of games, we got 6 here to wrap it up. We got Pine, A Story of Loss. Again, another one that I'm sure is built around someone's actual life experience. Coming out soon. You help a woodworker process grief and hold on to cherished memories of him and his wife who has passed. And then Ringo's Roundup is coming out soon, where you guide post-bunny Ringo's car through a variety of grid-based environments and collect scattered envelopes in this pathfinding puzzle game. A game called Sally that's coming out in Q4 of 2025, so quite a ways away. This is a life sim about community and belonging, where you embark on a grand journey about a magic flying ship to navigate daily life as a kid with a diverse crew unique to every game. So I think it's changes up every time you play, is kind of what I gathered from that. And then a star named, I don't know if it's EOS or EOS, I think it's probably EOS, but a star named EOS, July 23rd of this year. This is a story-rich puzzle adventure built around photography, where you recreate compositions of past photos to uncover the truth of a family mystery. And then Times and Galaxy comes out on June 21st, where you play as an intern robo-reporter for the Times and Galaxy publication and embark on an interplanetary adventure. And then finally, Tiny Lands 2 comes out sometime in 2025, where you spot the differences in different handcrafted 3D dioramas. So, Barry, what stands out among these 6?
Pine sounds interesting. Like you said, there's definitely a story behind it. I think for me, a star named EOS or EOS is the one that intrigues me the most.
And I pretty much echo that. That was like the main one that kind of stood out for me. I do like the puzzle adventure type games as well too. So not sure about like photography and solving puzzles with that, but I'm still kind of intrigued to potentially look into it further. So
nice. Well, moving on, we had the Indie FPS Summer Showcase that happened after that. Again, nothing that really stood out from Switch. There was also the Latin American Games Showcase. We saw Calupra and the Souls of Limbo, which we already talked about in the Wholesome Direct. That was shown off. The Women-led Games Showcase also, I don't believe there is anything in that one from Switch. Future Games Showcase. Future Games Summer Showcase showed off Duck Detective, The Secret Salami, which is already out on Nintendo Switch, which will be coming out soon on other platforms. It's a mystery game that looks very similar to kind of Paper Mario a little bit. And again, there were other games that were shown off that said coming to consoles, but didn't really list specific ones. The IGN Live continued on. Tetris had their 40th anniversary celebration. The big thing to note is that Tetris Effect Connected is 40% off on all platforms until June 17th. And then moving on to the next day on June 9th, the Xbox Showcase and the Call of Duty Black Ops 6 Direct happened, and you're probably wondering, why are you talking about the Xbox Showcase on a Nintendo podcast? Well, because there was at least one game that was shown off that is coming to Switch, and that is the new Life is Strange game, Life is Strange Double Exposure. It's going to be dropping on all platforms, including Switch, on October 29th. And then we also saw some stuff from Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which they didn't say anything about Switch, but they have that deal that they said it's supposed to come to all systems, and so maybe it's probably going to come on the Switch successor, but they didn't really say anything about that. Barry, Greg, I think it's a good time to pause because I know all three of us are big Life is Strange fans. So, Barry, what excites you most about Double Exposure?
I love the concept of going between realities. I think that's so cool. Especially when a series that's all about choices. And I think that was the biggest complaint I had about True Colors, as much as I love the game, was that I didn't feel like the consequences were there. Like the choices didn't, whether you did A or B, like the outcome was virtually identical or just slightly different. Which normally in a game is fine, but when you deal with like Life is Strange, especially that first one, where that choice is gut punching and there is no right or wrong choice, it is literally a rock and a hard place. I like to see this have a little more life and death and rock and a hard place. And also kind of reminds me a little Before the Storm with Rachel and everything going on. And it's great to see Max back. It's Max's voice actress again back. My biggest question, and it has to be answered, and if it's not answered, I don't know how they're getting away with it, is what ending of Life is Strange 1 are we continuing from? And are these two dimensions we go to, is one of them going to have one ending and the other have the other ending? Are we going to see any mention about anything that regarding Life is Strange 2? Because there's definitely some crossover to Life is Strange 2. Are we going to see anything about True Colors? Because Stephanie went to the school and she they're all set in the same world. So I want to see more references to the previous games. But if nothing else, they have to mention Life is Strange 1 and Before the Storm. They have to, because Max is in both of those games, and they absolutely are definitely prior to this. So I'm just interested to see what they do. And I know that in the comics, if you never read the comics, Max is in a universe where Rachel doesn't die, and she and Chloe and Rachel, they're all together, and it's great to see the three of them together. And that's the cool thing. So I'm hoping they're starting to take this into the multiverse, department. Maybe we'll see the brothers from Life is Strange 2, and to see where they go with it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Greg, how about you?
Yeah, this is the Life is Strange podcast, as we've said before. So,
Yeah.
I actually never got around to playing 1 and 2, despite having picked them up. But this news is certainly very much going to be demanding that I go through both 1 and 2 before this game comes out. And like, I totally missed the reveal, and I haven't even seen any of the trailers. But just like seeing the name is just like, okay, day one purchase, like boom, like it's like I'm ready to like just submit like the order through if it's already on like the eShop or whatever. But yeah, definitely really excited to see another game in the series, and like as what I'm doing with Paper Mario, I'll definitely be getting caught up on Life is Strange, and that's probably going to be pushing this up to dive in sooner than later, just depending on where other games come from that Nintendo Direct. So
yeah, I'm really excited about it, and it's so cool that, like True Colors, it's coming out on Switch on day one, and so that'd be really cool. And yeah, we don't have to wait till the Switch successor to get it ported over. But I probably play it on Xbox because I know it probably run better. But it's still cool.
I don't know if this is going to be like Life is Strange 1, 2, and Before the Storm, or if it's going to be more like True Colors. If it's going to be episodic or the whole game at the same time. Because True Colors, when it came out, it was the whole game. But I did see something about episode 1 and episode 2, and the original games, they were put out like when launch, it was just the first episode, and you had to wait, a couple weeks or a month until the next episode dropped, and it was like a TV show. That's how it is. And now, if you go back and play the original Life is Strange, you don't have to worry about that. There's still episodes, but you just go right to the next episode. So we could be all excited, and we'd be like, "Oh, it's like a TV show, like talking about, like, oh, what did you think of that ending? Oh, the cliffhanger. We got to wait and see." And
that's true.
So I don't know how they're going to do it.
Our apologies when it comes to the end of October of this year. We're going to be talking about Life is Strange quite a bit, probably. Yeah, I'd be interested because, like I only played the rest of the games like they were already out, so I just played back to back to back. But yeah, with True Colors coming out on one game, I wonder if they would do the same thing on Switch, like how they'll do that. Will it be separate downloads for each of them like they do on the other consoles or what? But it'd be interesting. Yeah. Well, moving on, because we are going quite a bit long because we knew that was going to happen, but we're going to try to get through these as fast as possible. But IGN had their day 3 of their events. The PC gaming show happened also that day, and IGN had Ubisoft and Blumhouse on. And then on June 10th, we had Ubisoft Forward, so dedicated time for Ubisoft's event. But we got Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown story DLC. This is going to be dropping on September 2024. We all are huge fans of the Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown game here, and so getting some DLC is pretty cool. Then Biomorph. This could be releasing later in 2024, is all we know about Biomorph. And then Monopoly, which is releasing in 2024. And you're probably thinking, haven't we already had Monopoly? Yeah, we've had several different versions of Monopoly. This is just a long list of games. I don't really understand this, but it's coming out. And then Brawlhalla Fest is happening, and it's the 2024 that's coming as well. And then Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time is getting a remake, and that's coming all the way so far away in 2026. So, Barry, anything stand out to you from Ubisoft Direct or Ubisoft Forward?
Prince of Persia stuff, I was really excited to see. Lost Crown, like you mentioned, we absolutely had a blast with it. And I don't know if this is paid story, because I haven't gone back and done any of the additional like boss rush or anything like that. But if this is free DLC, like I absolutely will be finding my way back to see the story. If it's paid, I'm not sure, because I'm so far divorced from the game at this point, because that was, I think, January. But a fantastic game, and if you haven't played it yet, absolutely play it. And Sands of Time remake, that's something that was shown off a while back, and it kind of looked rough, and then it disappeared, and no one talked about it. And nice to see them acknowledge it, which is great. They also talked a little bit about the Rogue Prince of Persia. That I believe is on Switch. That's out now. But I haven't even looked into that, to be honest. I almost forgot that existed. Monopoly looked like it's a brand new anniversary Monopoly thing, and it's coming all platforms and stuff. And I'm looking for something unique in the trailer. I'm like, this just looks like Monopoly. There's nothing really interesting. So milking it, go for it. You got to deal with Hasbro. Why not?
Yeah. It falls in line with Monopoly. Try to make more money.
Yep.
Greg, anything stand out to you from Ubisoft?
I've still been interested to try the Prince of Persia games. I didn't get the code when you guys had it earlier this year, but hopefully it'll be something I can check out in the near future, because it does seem like it would be something that I would enjoy. I believe Brawlhalla was shown off at showcased earlier this year, one of the Nintendo themed partner directs or whatever. I think that one had sounded remotely interesting.
It's out now.
Oh, it's already out now? Okay.
It's been out for a while. Just adding more content to it.
Yeah.
Smash with a bunch of guest characters.
Bunch of characters, yeah.
Yeah, so it's probably just something I just need to look up at some reviews and other information on that to see if it's worth getting. And then, as you guys were saying, Monopoly's, it's almost like the new Just Dance, because it's like, oh, we got another version of Monopoly.
They did show off Just Dance too in VR, which actually looks really interesting, but not for Switch.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I mean they'll definitely keep coming for Switch, but
it was a thing on Monopoly I saw on a different person's YouTube channel, and it was just the history of Monopoly, and just even having the Monopoly mobile games and how they keep just reskinning it to everything known to mankind, and it's just kind of sickening how much it's out there. It's we need another version of the game. Is it any really different? No, you can still build houses, you can still buy the classic properties, and still go to jail and all that other fun stuff. So likely pass on the yearly edition of Monopoly, but never really know for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And yeah, the Prince of Persia games are definitely what stood out to me from Ubisoft Forward as well. Then producers just rounding out what we've seen so far. On June 11th, we had the Paperverse Direct. I don't believe there's anything from Switch specifically on that. And then on June 12th, we had several different Guerrilla Collective showcases that kind of spotlighted specific people and developers. They had Black Voices in Gaming, Dames for Games, and Stream for a Cause, which are all great. And if you want to go back and check those out as well. And then, as we're recording on June 13th, tomorrow is the Yacht Club Games Presents. Not really sure what they're going to be showing off, but Yacht Clubs usually has some really good games there. And sometime we're going to have a Nintendo Direct, and chances are it's going to drop the same day we publish this episode. And again, you're going to be wondering, why aren't they talking about Nintendo Direct? Just to reiterate, this is why, because we had to pre-record it, because on the day of this release, I'm going to be at Super Nintendo World in California. So I'm really excited about going there, and which would be kind of a little ironic if I miss watching the Nintendo Direct live because I'm at Nintendo World that day. But are you guys excited about what we're going to be seeing at Yacht Club or Nintendo Direct, Greg?
Yacht Club for sure, because I do love the Shovel Knight game, and then I know there was an industry talk way back when me and Barry talked to them, and they said they were hoping to branch away from the Shovel Knight branding. So hopefully, finally now we're ready to see what their next project is. So that would be kind of exciting there, because Shovel Knight was an excellent game, even though it's been ported to just about every single system out there to date now. So I'm still excited to see there, and then Nintendo Direct is always going to be interesting to watch, and who knows what else kind of surprises we have up for the rest of this year, as we don't know what's coming after Luigi's Mansion 2 and the NES Championship Edition. So only time will tell.
It's true. Barry, how about you?
I'm very interested to see what Yacht Club Games does. Will it be Shovel Knight 64? Will it be something brand new? But as for Nintendo, of course, as just fans, always interesting. And now it seems like Nintendo is going from doing 4 to 5 a year down to potentially only 3, a spring, summer, and a fall. And the one in the spring was a partner showcase. So it wasn't even a full Nintendo Direct. It's been, like September of last year, October last year, whatever, was the last full Nintendo Direct. So it's been a while. They do the indie worlds and stuff. So, and like Greg mentioned, like we have Luigi's Mansion 2 this month, and we have Nintendo World Championship next month. And that's all we know. We know that Metroid Prime 4 is in the works, and we know Pokemon Legends as a game in the works, and that's it. And we don't know anything else. So it'll be really interesting to see what they show off for Nintendo, especially since they stated it is not going to be Switch 2 related. It's just going to be Switch related, and they obviously have a holiday season in the back half of the year to fill out. And we always, we don't say always, but usually the back half of the year is crazier than the first half of the year. So I'm really interested to see what they bring to the tables. And I remember last year we were saying the same thing, like, oh, the back half of the year we know nothing, and then they had that summer direct and the fall direct that filled in all the questions, and we had a banger of a last half of the year last year. So I'm really excited to see what they're bringing to the table. Come on, Xeno X, let's go.
I mean, they got to do something as they, work on this, whatever they're going to do while they put off releasing the next Switch.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be more in line with what we saw with the tail end of the 3DS, and just going to be a bunch of like filler and smaller port titles, and maybe more smaller projects like the Championship Edition. But who knows? I mean, they could have some NSO surprises up their sleeves, like maybe we are getting Mother 3 on there too. I mean, you never really know. So
maybe new systems. Hey, in preparation, here's Sega Saturn, here Virtual Boy. GameCube. Wow. We don't want to do GameCube. They're porting too many GameCube games over.
That could be cool. Well, let's move on into the last section. What games are going to be coming up over the next couple weeks? And here's the deal: because I'm traveling and we got some different things going on, I'm not going to say exactly when our next episode is actually going to drop. Normally, we do release these. We record live every other Tuesday. Chances are we're actually going to release it on two Tuesdays from July or June 18th, which I think is July 2nd, if I'm getting my dates correctly. So probably expect an episode on July 2nd. Most likely will not be live because of different things going on, but who knows? We may surprise you and we'll see what actually happens. But I think that's when the next one is going to be dropping. But yeah, let's move into what we're going to be talking about or playing over the next couple weeks. As always, we're scrolling the video version has games coming out, compliments of Metacritic, and I'll just go over some ones over the next few weeks that kind of stood out to me as I'm going through there. June 20th, we got Wildlands and Ever After Falls. And then June 23rd, we got Grass Cutting Simulator and this is the same game, Grass Cutting Simulator, Lawn Moving Care, which I know is really exciting to Barry especially. And then June 25th, we've got Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble. Then June 27th, a Street Cat's Tale 2 and Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. July 5th is The Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak. And July 11th is Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown Deluxe Edition. So anything stand out or anything else you're going to be playing over the next couple weeks, Barry?
Yeah, you missed two of the biggest ones, actually.
Did I really?
Looking forward to this week. This week, they're actually going to be out by the time this podcast drops, and that's Monster Hunter Stories 1, which I'm looking forward to, and Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance is coming.
Oh, I know why I left them off, because I'm thinking this is releasing on the 18th, and so I didn't look what's coming out, after a couple of days of recording. So that's why.
That's true. Yeah, so I guess as the time it's recording, they're already out. But those are the next two ones I'm looking forward to. So yeah, if we recorded this live, I would have been telling you I'm already playing them. But those are the big ones that I'm looking forward to. But this is a crazy time because Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble, I very much am looking forward to on the 25th. On the 28th, we've got Final Fantasy 14. It's not Switch, but Final Fantasy 14 Dawn Trail Early Access is coming. And then, like you mentioned, July 5th, Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak, and Luigi's Mansion on June 27th. So I've got all these games all like in this cluster that I all absolutely want to play. These are like games that are absolutely have my attention. So I have no idea what I'm going to do. I'm just going to explode, I guess. I don't know, but I'm so happy that this is a good problem to have. A lot of good games. So I'm really hoping after Trails Through Daybreak, I have a little bit of a breather room to catch up and get through this backlog. That is all happening in the next 3 weeks, 2 weeks,
right?
Whatever.
Yeah, Greg, how about you?
Probably mostly just Luigi's Mansion 2, but that'll probably be more kind of sidelined as I finish up like Paper Mario and even start the 1,000-Year-Old Door. But that was pretty much the main one that probably stood out, at least this time around.
Yeah. I'll be playing Wylands because we're going to be talking about that on a game chat. It's coming up soon. Super Monkey Ball is always fun for me as well. I probably won't get the Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. I think I own the original, but I can't even remember. It's been too long. Ace Combat 7 is another game that I'm excited about. I played a little bit of it on Xbox, I think, as well, and I'm just really excited that it's coming out on Switch. That's another game that I'm like, wow, they pulled that off. That's really cool because it looks fantastic on PS5 and Xbox. So yeah, that's really cool that they were able to pull it over there and play. I'm probably going to be spending time with kind of games that I can kind of just play a little bit here and there as I'm traveling. So I don't even really know what that's going to be. It might be some of the Mega Man Game Boy games, some different things like that I can just play little bits here and there because that's basically all I'm going to be getting over the next few weeks. And then, and enjoy my time at Nintendo World. And next podcast that I'm here, I'll have to come back and tell you guys all about it as well, which alluding to the fact that I may not be on the next episode because I'm traveling. So we'll figure it out. Barry and Greg, I'll tell you all about Nintendo Direct if I'm not around. But yeah, stand by and we'll definitely get you Nintendo Direct coverage. When and how we do that is to be determined, but it's definitely going to happen on the next episode. Just stay tuned to our social media and our Discord and all that stuff as well. But yeah, it's been a packed episode, guys. It's a big season of what E3 used to be, and they're trying to bring it back all at the same time. We had so much to cover. Still things that I need to go back and watch, like the Devolver Digital Direct, and see all that as well. Greg, any final thoughts before we close out this episode? It's already a long episode.
Well, yeah, I'll be married at the time of the next the date this drops, so that'll be fun there. And then, I'll just hopefully be able to catch the Nintendo Direct when it drops. But I'll be on my honeymoon. We never really know for sure like if and when it will be around, and if I'll have the ability to watch it remotely, not being in the U.S. So that'll be interesting there. But yeah, outside of that, it was a great episode.
Cool. Yeah. All the timing and everything, I forgot. Yeah, you're gonna be married by the next time we release this episode, and when it publishes, you're like time traveling yourself there a little bit.
Yeah,
Barry. Barry.
My turn to use the DeLorean, Steve.
Yeah, there you go. The gigawatts. So Barry, I'm going on vacation. Greg's getting married. Anything exciting happening in your world over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I've got the in-laws in for a couple of weeks, and this, as of the time of this recording, will be past. But before this recording, this weekend, my son is having his first birthday party, and as of not the next episode, but till the next time we talk, I will have a 1-year-old. I will have a actual hitting that milestone. I can officially get a T-shirt that said I kept a human alive for a year, which is that's really what the first birthday is. It's a celebration that the parents didn't kill the kid for a year, because parenthood is hard and it's scary and it's exciting, and they don't teach you this. They just throw you good luck. You're now in charge of this little person. Have fun. So I'm really excited about that. I'm loving the person he's becoming, and seeing him now with his grandparents are here, and they're watching him right now as we record this, and just seeing him laugh and smile and stuff, and watching their reaction. It's awesome. it's awesome
Nice.
to be able to share the little joy that he is with other people and let them, let them spread that joy around. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting 2 weeks. And of course, I've got to find time to play these games during all of this, which is always the fun part.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Like I said,
Yeah.
my head just might explode.
Which
You were able to
make-
power through 100 hours of Xenoblade before with family in town, so I don't put it past you.
No, I in fact I didn't. That's why it came in second place instead of Breath of the Wild. It should have been first place, but I had 3 days to rush through that game with in-laws in, and that was 2017, and that should have been my game of the year, but it wasn't because I had very little time to do anything with. Needed to delay that episode.
Well, definitely exciting times in your guys' world, and Barry's getting his player 2 or player 3. It's getting closer and closer to that age where he's going to jump in and eventually.
He already does.
Take over.
He reaches for my controller. I was trying to play Pokemon Unite last night, and all he wanted to do was push buttons, and he was grabbing the right analog stick and he's moving it around while I'm trying to play, and my shots are going all different directions. I'm just like, you know what? I don't care. He's having fun. Whatever.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You just gotta get him a controller and just let him play with it. Like,
he has the Play School controller, but he doesn't matter. He wants what Daddy has.
Of course,
It's and that and cell phones. And unfortunately, my father-in-law has already said, "Oh, you can have my cell phone." So now he's sitting there holding my father-in-law's cell phone. I'm like, "You're spoiling him. We don't let him have the cell phone unless he crawls for it, And now here you are just giving it to him. Like, why? Why do you hate us so?
It's because he doesn't have to go home with them.
He doesn't
That's
live.
why.
We purposely are like, we're not going to buy the Play School cell phone so he doesn't get used to it. And what are they doing for his birthday? They're buying him the Play School cell phone.
He's got an iPhone. No,
he's got a Play School iPhone before 1 year old.
iPhone
Nice.
iPhone 16 already.
Yeah,
even it's not out yet.
Probably.
Well, it's been awesome to talk with you guys, and thanks for hanging out with us for over 2 hours on this episode. But hopefully it was helpful for you guys to have everything that was talked about. I mean, this is hours and hours and hours and hours of content that we kind of tried to condense down to just a couple hours that we're showing off. So definitely a good news, bad news season that we're in. The good news is there are tons of games that we get to play now and very, very soon. The bad news is that there's not enough time, but it's a good bad news, I guess. We've definitely had seasons, as we talked about before on previous episodes, where it's like, well, wish I had a new game to play. It is not the case anymore at all. So, well, that brings us to kind of almost the end of the Pseudo E3 season, but like we said, we're going to be back on the next episode talking all about the Nintendo Direct that's supposed to happen sometime this month in June. But until then, happy gaming, everybody.
Have a good one.
See you next time.